Okay, if I could get everyone's attention, if everyone would go ahead and grab your plates and your wine and your refreshments and try and find a seat. We are going to be starting very shortly. So I'll give you all a couple of minutes to go ahead and find your seats and join us. Okay, everyone, we are not live yet. I want to just give you a few housekeeping tips. So if everyone could take their seats, bring their dinners over. My name is Karen Kaplan, and I will be moderating this evening's UT Health House Calls. As most of you know, our UT Health House Calls events are also streaming live on abc13.com, on YouTube, and on Facebook Live, hence the big camera right there. And though most of you they're not likely that you will appear on camera, but if for some reason you suddenly leap from your chair and jump into a Mercedes 2019 AMG, is that it? Yeah. That we found out the price for, but it's $172,000. Right. But I bet you could get it for $170,000. Play your cards right. Well, anyway, if you suddenly do that, we won't blame you, but we would prefer that you sit off to the sides or in the back in case the camera catches you. And since cameras are rolling, we gratefully ask that your own questions for Dr. Sharma be submitted using your smartphones as well. We will not be taking questions from the floor. So how to do that? This is how you do that. So you are going to text the word Mercedes to this number, 25827, and it should be on your chairs as well. You will get a thank you reply from them, and at that point, you may put in your question. So if time does not permit us to get to all the questions, since this is a live webcast and it only lasts 30 or 40 minutes, please take advantage of the face-to-face access with our experts. We will have Dr. Sharma here and also one of her doctoral students. And grab them. They're going to be here, as long as you have questions after the show. And for those of you who also want to get your blood pressure screened or your bone density, please feel free. They will be here as well from UT physicians. So, in just a moment, we'll be going live. So I thank you all, and I hope you enjoy the program. We'll be back. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fourth UTHealth House Calls of 2019, presented by Mercedes-Benz Dealers of Greater Houston and hosted tonight by Mercedes-Benz of Houston North. My name is Karen Kaplan, and I am a longtime member of the UTHealth family, and I am also a medical journalist. So I have the pleasure of serving as moderator for the UTHealth House Calls series, a wonderful way to bring awareness to important health topics, and thanks to abc13.com, an equally wonderful way to bring answers to some of the questions about your health. Mercedes-Benz of Greater Houston has been a generous and steadfast supporter of UTHealth and its 6 health-related schools and is committed to the safety and wellness of the Houston community. In fact, Mercedes-Benz of Houston North is actually helping us to grow the next generation of healthcare professionals by once again giving out 2 $5,000 scholarships benefiting first-year students at our School of Public Health. So I want to thank Ivan, who is the general manager of, and I would also like to thank Edwin, who is the manager of sales, for this incredible generosity. And this is the second year they've done that. So this is a lot of money. And now the reason you are all tuning in this evening is the topic, which is Food as Medicine, featuring Dr. Shrila Sharma. Dr. Sharma is an associate professor in the Department of Epidemiology, Human Genetics, and Environmental Sciences at the UTHealth School of Public Health and is a leader in designing programs to improve nutrition, to prevent disease, and protect our health. The Q&A portion of our program will be moderated by me, so please send in your questions. We will get to as many as we can tonight, and for those that we do not answer, we will have someone from Dr. Sharma's group answering them online, and you will be able to get to them certainly for the next week. And I'll tell you how to do that later on in the program. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Shrila Sharma.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me here today to talk about my favorite topic, food. Well, let me ask first, how many of you eat? Right? And food is at the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What that means is that we need to eat to live. And I'll take that one step further to say that we need to eat well to live well. What's interesting is that, we live in a day and age where we have more technology at our fingertips, making scientific data easily accessible that can help us guide our decisions, right? But there's a lot of information out there, and how do you sift through that information, especially when it comes to food? And we'll talk about some of that today. What we do know is that studies have shown over and over, especially recently, that eating a diet that's high in fruits and vegetables and whole grains can not only prevent and reduce your risk of developing chronic diseases that plague us today, like heart disease and type 2 diabetes and hypertension, but also it can help you live longer and help you live a better life. What's interesting about food is that unlike other medicines, if you eat a diet that is high in unhealthy foods, it can actually increase your risk of the very same diseases. So foods that are highly processed, high in sodium, high in sugars, sugary beverages, those are the foods that can actually increase your risk for the very same diseases that I mentioned a minute ago: diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and many more. So food is medicine, right? And I'll add to not just the physical part about food, but also the mental health piece. Food can not just nourish your body, but also your mind. Studies have shown, especially in children, that eating a healthy diet eating your breakfast regularly can help children achieve better academic achievement. It has also shown that the type of food you eat, foods that are high in antioxidants, can actually improve your mental health and well-being. So, make sure you get your berries for breakfast. I'll also say, there's another huge component to food when we think about its relationship to health. Here we are in Mercedes-Benz, which has some of the best cars in the world, right? And these cars are very high performing, but what do they need to run? They need fuel. And they need not just any fuel, but the right kind of fuel to maintain their high performance. So if you think about are you going to put water in a Mercedes-Benz? No. Why not? Because it's not going to run. In fact, it's not going to run at all if you put water in the tank. Well, our bodies are highly sophisticated machines, and they run exactly the same way. What you put in your body in terms of fuel is going to give you the performance that you are going to get, right? So what you put in is what you're going to get out. And it doesn't have to be complicated. So we'll talk a little bit about, food as medicine. And medicine, as we all know, sometimes can get complicated. So we'll break that down in a minute as well. But, we are very compliant when we think about our blood pressure medication. We'll take our blood pressure medication at 7 p.m. every day for 30 years. But we are not that compliant when it comes to thinking about food and how we fuel our body with the right kind of food. And why is that? Why do we not do the same due diligence that we do with medication? Why don't we bring that to food? And I think that is an important question we need to ask ourselves. Our grandmothers, our ancestors, they had it right? They were cooking every day. They were using fresh, seasonal ingredients. And they were using a lot of herbs and spices, right, from their backyard, their gardens, into their cooking. And the medicines and the spices, those weren't just for, the flavor. Of course, the food tasted amazing. But it was also for the medicinal properties that are in those herbs and spices. And we've moved away from that. We've moved away from cooking. It's gone out of the fabric. We've moved away from fresh. And we've even moved away from using a lot of flavor and spices and herbs in our day-to-day cooking. Cooking has gone down about 40% in our country in the last 40 years. That's a pretty steep decline, I would say. Concurrently, the rates of chronic disease are climbing at epidemic proportions. And there's definitely a strong correlation between diet and disease. Let me tell you all a story about one of our patients that is a UT Physicians patient. And we actually offer a program called Healthy Eating, Active Living, or HEAL for short. And it's a program that works with pregnant women and women with infants. And the women come in once a week for 6 weeks and work with our community health workers and our dietitians. And we teach them what we call a food-first model. We teach them about, how do you eat healthy? How is food related to health? How can you cook food, but how can you make it easy? How can you cook healthy for yourself and your baby? How can you what freezes well? How can you freeze your leftovers and make it last longer? How can you shop on a budget? The real life tips and tools that need to be ingrained in a healthy lifestyle. So our women come, each week, learn about, we also teach them how to be active during pregnancy. And pregnancy is a really key time, right? Because you can influence the mom, you can influence the family, and you can also influence the baby, right? And set the foundation for their life. So we had this mother who, she was in her second pregnancy, and she came and she participated in the HEAL program. And at the end of the program, our community health workers usually ask them, tell us your story and tell us about what you liked, what you didn't like, so on and so forth. And she told us that she came to HEAL because in her first pregnancy, she was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And that's a form of diabetes that happens during pregnancy and can stem from a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons could be an unhealthy lifestyle. And she said she knew during her first pregnancy that she wasn't eating healthy and she wasn't being active. And as a result of it, she ended up going on insulin to control her blood sugar through her pregnancy. And it wasn't a positive experience for her. She did not enjoy her pregnancy. So she said, when she heard that UT Physicians and the School of Public Health are partnering in offering this program, she jumped on it. And she came and, she came to us in her first trimester. And, by the time we finished the program, she was towards the end of her second trimester and well into her third. And she told us that she was not only able to eat healthier and feel better, maintain a healthy weight gain trajectory during her pregnancy, but she was able to completely stave off gestational diabetes diagnosis from her second pregnancy. And, that is one of the stories out of the hundreds of stories that we've heard over the years about the power that food can have and as part of a healthy lifestyle, right? And she went on to not only enjoy, have a healthy pregnancy, but enjoy her pregnancy and prepare. She felt prepared to have a healthy delivery and felt prepared and confident that she can give her baby a healthy start. Because one of the things we do in the program is we also teach them how to make healthy baby food, right? So, so it's these real life skills that are empowering, right? Things that we used to probably learn in the classroom, in our home ec, but home ec has gone out of the classroom. So a lot of these skills that we used to learn in the classroom have gone out of the fabric, and we need to bring them back. And let me tell you that eating healthy does not have to be complicated. There's so much information out there that there's information overload, and then there's also where are you getting your information from? There's some very key resources like dietary guidelines for Americans that have an evidence-based consensus of what a healthy diet looks like. And, all of you here may have questions about, what does a healthy diet look like? Should I go gluten-free? Should I go, sugar-free, salt-free? No, you don't have to go any free. Eating a diet, food shouldn't be complicated. You know why? Because it's one of the pleasures of life, right? We need to not just eat to live, but we need to eat food that is also tasty and delicious. I have two boys, 13 and 9, and let me tell you that they will not eat food if it doesn't taste good, no matter how healthy it is. So for it to work in my family, the food has to be healthy, tasty, inexpensive, easy to cook, and all of those ingredients are needed. And those ingredients are the foundation that's needed to live a healthier lifestyle when it comes to your diet. At UT School of Public Health, we actually have a program in culinary medicine that trains budding medical students as well as public health students and the community in this food first model. Essentially not teaching them, well, spinach has vitamin K, because guess what? That is not going to make me eat more fruits and vegetables. But it teaches them how do I, how is food related to health? It teaches them about how do I, freeze leftovers? How do I make this food last longer? Basic culinary skills. And that guides them to understand how, if I know that cooking this kind of food, whether it's a diabetic diet, whether it's, a low sodium diet, if I am prescribing that to my patient, then I need to know what it takes to build that diet. And I need to know if that's tasty, number one, taste is a given, and if it's feasible, if it's going to work in their lifestyle. So we are building a new kind of professional, healthcare professional through this culinary medicine program at UTHealth. But the bottom line that we're teaching, circling back to what, when we think about food as medicine, what it's really about is that we want to eat a diet that contains real food. If there's anything you take from here today, know that it's not about being on any diet. It shouldn't be that complicated. It's really about eating real food. And what is real food? It's simple. It's about eating food that's as close to its original form that it came from than anything else. So foods that are highly processed, we don't consider those as real foods, right? And then have half your plate be fruits and vegetables. That's it, with lots of color. USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, and the Dietary Guidelines for Americans promote what is called a My Plate. And if you look at the plate, all it says is eat lots of color, let half your plate be fruits and vegetables, and do that every day. That's not once in a while. Going back to your medication compliance, if you really think about food as medicine, compliance becomes part of it, right? Do it every day, do it with your family, and I promise you that this kind of medicine will not only taste better, but it will nourish your body and your mind. Thank you.
We already have many questions. So this is the first question. Are artificial sweeteners, can one use artificial sweeteners? What would be the best one? And do they damage blood vessels?
I'm going to keep going back to eat real food because even sugar is a real food, right? So my question back would be, what is it that you want to incorporate artificial sweeteners in your diet for, right? Because the key word is artificial. There's a lot of sweeteners. Stevia is a good natural sweetener that does not have sugar. It's not going to raise your blood sugar. So there's some natural sugars and sweeteners out there that you can incorporate, as well. But we do not recommend using artificial sweeteners as part of your regular diet.
Hello. This is about our other food group, alcohol. So this one says, I'm that guy. So what alcohol drink is the best for you? Lately, I have heard that tequila is the healthiest, low glycemic index, low calories. Yeah, I want to meet this guava plant. Can you respond?
Yeah, I mean, the best kind of alcohol, so if you go back to the Mediterranean diet, which has been proven to be heart healthy, and a Mediterranean diet consists of, again, lots of real food, nuts, berries, fruits, a lot of vegetables, but it also it has red wine as one of the recommendations. So if you ask what kind of alcohol should I choose, whether it's tequila or if I would go for the red wine. But I think the important point here is that you don't want to pick and choose out of a diet that's proven to be heart healthy, because it's not that one ingredient of red wine that showed the benefits when it came to improving your risk of developing heart disease. It was the combination of all the foods that were consumed as part of that diet that made it heart healthy. But going back to your question, Karen, you should enjoy a glass of red wine every now and then.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good to know. What are the non-negotiable foods that my 3 and 5-year-olds should be eating? I will sneak it in somehow, or at least tell me how to make them try something.
This topic is close to my heart for many reasons. Of course, being a mother of 2 boys, having gone through that, been there, done that, and still am on that journey, I can definitely relate to it. I think there's a lot of good information out there on how you can have your kids eat healthy. But let me tell you, those rules do not just apply to kids. I use them myself when it comes to my own diet. I think number one, again, taste is an important piece. It's not healthy or tasty. It has to be tasty and it can be healthy, right? So when it comes to my kids or anybody else's, I recommend having like it, love it, like it, and learn it strategy. Every plate should have something that the child loves, that they're familiar with, and they'll eat. Something that they like, they're learning, they're somewhere, and something that they're still learning to like. And put it in small portions. Kids are not little adults. They don't need to be eating adult-sized portions. And there's another sort of a pet peeve of mine, which is kids' foods. Kids don't need their own separate menu. They can eat everything that we can eat as an adult. They just, you might want to maybe tone down on the spice a little bit, or, serve smaller portions, make it bite-sized. But there is absolutely no need. I see a lot of parents who struggle with that, where they feel like they need to have a whole different menu for the child and a whole different menu for the adult. And that is just not a feasible solution. Kids can eat, but just give them small portions. So, the like it, love it, learn it strategy works very well. And I'll also add to the end that children and adults, it takes about a dozen tries for even adults to like a new food. I mean, think about the last time you tried something absolutely new. I'll admit, when I moved to the United States about 22 years ago, I didn't know what broccoli was. I had never eaten broccoli. And I came and I had never bought it because I was a student, poor student on a limited budget. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. And then my roommate, she was like, okay. So she showed me simple trick. Just slice the broccoli and, put olive oil, salt, and pepper and roast it. And it became one of my favorite snacks, and it's one of our favorite snacks even with my boys today. And it's delicious, it's crunchy. But, it took me so many times of going to the grocery store and having the courage to buy the broccoli and then having the courage to cook it, then imagine for a child, it's going to take them a while to try. So don't give up. It took my son 7 years of trying for him to eat a piece of tofu. So I would say don't give up.
Great. I'll try that on my husband. I'm kidding. He's the cook and he eats it all. Okay, this is a question I've also wrestled with. The myth or fact on cooking your food, high heat. Are you, particularly, I'm assuming that this question relates especially to vegetables. Are you killing your vitamins and nutrients?
So let me first preface that by saying that in the U.S., we should be more concerned about the fact that do we even have vegetables on our plate, because especially when it comes to a lot of my research is in children. Only 11% of our children are eating enough vegetables. That's 1 out of 10 children are eating enough. So first, let's start about they even have it on their plate. Let them eat it in any form. And then when it comes to cooking, that's a great question. There are some foods, you eat your vegetables raw, great, go for it. But there are some foods, tomatoes, broccoli, steaming them will actually bring out the nutrients. Tomatoes have lycopene, and if you actually cook the tomatoes, it brings out the lycopene in it, which is one of the nutrients. And then, but overcooking, which means, or cooking it a certain way. So deep frying vegetables, for example, does sort of makes them nutrient less, if you will. So overcooking of any food can remove the nutrients, including vegetables.
Excellent, thank you. Several questions have come in about what I would call the trend foods that we're seeing. Questions about why are we now able or encouraged to eat coconut or drink coconut water, whereas before it was, the devil's food because of the high fat content. Also, turmeric, that has become quite popular in taking it in pill form, supplement form, cooking with it constantly. I could probably go on and on. Of course, gluten-free. That is a massive trend set. So if you could speak on these
3 pieces.
Pick a trend.
Oh, okay. I can speak to all 3. I'll speak to all 3 really quick because I think trends are important, but we have to understand that trends are not consensus-based, right? It's a trend. It's what's hot in the media today, and it can be based on just one study. When we say let's go with evidence-based recommendation, we're talking about consensus across hundreds of studies, and that has been parsed out to say, okay, this is good for you based on the hundreds of studies that back it up, right? Versus what may be in the media based on one study that's been done in the last 2 years in a small population. So I'll say that to start with. But, again, you can eat, all foods. However, there are a few key things about, especially the gluten-free diet, that is concerning to us. And I'll tell you why. Because gluten is a protein. It's a protein that's found in many products like, your breads and pizza and pastas. And it's naturally occurring in there. So it's not an artificial, ingredient that's added in your food. Only 1% of the population in the US has a condition called celiac disease, which is a gluten allergy. So really they cannot tolerate gluten, causes an inflammation in the gut. Then there are some people for whom consuming gluten causes intolerance, which is bloating and gas and cramps, and I'm not going to go into details, but you get the picture. So, with them as well, there's a lot of gluten-free products out there. However, it's become a trend to think that if you go gluten-free, you're going to lose weight because you're staying away from the pastas and the pizzas and, the bread products. But you're eliminating an entire food group. Also, gluten-free products can be high in fat and sugar. So if you're not really reading the label, you might be consuming excess amount of fat and sugar. The other important, and this is really important, in the US, we fortify these foods, our breads and our pastas. They're fortified with folic acid and iron, which is key, right? Without which, especially if you're, a woman of childbearing age, these are key nutrients. So by eliminating that food group, you could be setting yourself up for key deficiency that you don't even know of. So our recommendation is if you do not need to go on any of those diets, don't eat everything. You can really have it all. You just need to be conscious about what you're taking in and removing out of your diet.
Thank you. Is there a healthier order to eat your different food groups? Carbohydrates before protein, et cetera. And second part, is there a time of day that certain food groups would be wiser to hit that circadian time?
caffeine. Stay away from caffeine. To me, to be completely honest with you, sometimes this is a great example of sometimes how we can overcomplicate food. If our recommendation, and when I say our recommendation, I'm talking about the dietary guidelines for Americans, and you can find that information at dietaryguidelines.gov, great source of information. We recommend a variety of foods on a plate. So it's a my plate, half your plate be fruits and vegetables. You have a small part of your plate protein. So protein is one of those foods that you actually need the least of. So the most that your body needs is carbohydrates because it's a fuel for your brain along with your body, right? But then you need fat, right? But then you need protein, and only 10 to 15% of your diet needs to be protein, which is kind of counterintuitive to a lot. We're vegetarians, and the number one question people ask me, do you get your protein? And only 10 to 15% of our diet needs to be protein. That's about, the size, a piece of chicken the size of your palm at every meal. And have, a small piece of bread or pasta or some grain, whole grains is what we recommend in that plate. And last but not least, lots of water. That is one food group that we actually forget, but eating foods that are high in sugar, and a lot of our sugar that we get these days in our diet is from sugary beverages. So eating a diet that has, this my plate, this healthy plate with lots of fruits and vegetables and color on it with water is the way to go. And doing it at every meal. Breakfast is one meal that we recommend do not miss. Now, let me tell you why. The word breakfast is break fast, breaking your fast. You have slept, or hopefully you've had a good night's sleep, and so you've not eaten anything essentially from 12 hours before, approximately. So it really doesn't matter what time you break your fast. What matters is what you're breaking your fast with. That is really important. If your gut microbiome, which is all the bacteria in your gut, are going to respond to that first thing that you put in your mouth, that's going to set you up for your day. So again, eating healthy, real foods. Again, lots of fruits and vegetables. Yogurt is a great, stimulates your healthy gut bacteria. These are great options, oatmeal. These are great options to start your day with. So again, it's not what time, but it's what you break your fast with.
Speaking of water, in our age of bottled water, are we getting any fluoride if we are not using tap water?
Great question, Karen, and thank you for asking that, because so our tap water has fluoride, and fluoridation of drinking water has been one of the greatest successes of our 20th century. So it's one of, when I teach my epidemiology class, that's on my slides, because that has really reduced your risk of developing decay in your teeth. So it's a huge public health success. However, your bottled water may or may not contain fluoride. So, and also it's expensive, right? So the manufacturers who, bottle the water, they can tell you whether, and it's on their website, they should provide that information to you. However, it's not on the label. And so you need to think, from your tap water, you filter it, you're getting fluoride, you're fine through your tap water. But from your bottled water, you may or may not be getting fluoride. So you need to double check.
You mentioned gut bacteria, a huge, huge issue in the media and in research. And one area that I'd like you to address also is the connection between brain health, depression, mood disorders, and your stomach, which is a hard reach for those who are not in your line of work?
Yes. It's actually very simple. Your gut talks to your brain. And it's a bidirectional communication. So there's something called the gut-brain axis, and I'm not going to go into that, but there is something called the gut-brain axis, which is a bidirectional pathway where your gut bacteria send signals through your central nervous system to the brain and tells your brain, oh, am I full? Do I need to eat more? Do I need to eat less? It sends all, and it's a constant communication. It also stimulates, if you think about the time when you had a full meal. You're full, and then the dessert tray goes by, right? And you're now craving that slice of cheesecake on that dessert tray, right? That is the conversation, and now suddenly you have the room to eat that slice of cheesecake. That is the conversation. That's an example of the conversation that your gut is having with your brain, right? Now you suddenly made room for that slice of cheesecake. So that's the gut-brain axis. And anything that can disturb that pathway can have an impact. And there's research out there on studies that show that if your gut microbiome is not optimal, it can influence your mental health, and it can impact health, including depression and anxiety. So keeping your gut healthy, and you'll ask me, how do I do that? Well, keeping your gut healthy using, again, make sure your diets, foods that are highly processed, right, like your chips and hot dogs and sausages, those kinds of, they're highly processed foods are going to upset your gut microbiome. There's no doubt about it. But foods, like, again, your fresh fruits and vegetables, yogurt, buttermilk, those have live cultures in it. Those are going to, help keep a healthy flora in your gut.
Great. We are going to take 2 more questions, and I'm going to remind everyone that the questions we were not able to get to, we will get to over the next few days. And so just keep checking abc13.com under the health check, and you will see them. Are 3-day juice detoxes okay for you? And how often, if so?
So juicing is one way of getting a big boost of micronutrients, right? Because are you going to eat, 50 pounds of fruit every day? No, you're not, right? But juicing can give you the same vitamins. But what you're losing with juicing is you might be losing the fiber, right? That is in fruit. What juicing does is it stimulates your gut in terms of flushing everything out because you're consuming large volumes of fluid, right? So it flushes your system out. There's nothing, we haven't seen any data to suggest that intermittent fasting or detoxing has negative effects. However, we do know that if it is not monitored carefully, it can lower, you can have swings in blood sugar, especially if you have conditions like diabetes. You should not be engaging in anything like detoxing because it may fluctuate your blood sugar significantly. So you need to be talking to your doctor on what is it that you want to achieve. This is my goal, and will this help me best meet my goal? So in most cases, detoxing may not be the best option, but people do it.
Last question, and this has to do with more of a patient target group, geriatrics, older patients. Do we need different types of nutrients in our advanced age that we weren't necessarily needing before? Mm-hmm. And this person writes is in his or her 90s, and wants to know if there's something they should be beefing up on or eating less of as they age for their own overall health.
I would say if you're 90, please eat anything you want. You're clearly doing something right, right? So
Let's find out what they're eating.
right. I would like to meet them and do a food diary. But aging, none of us can escape aging, right? It's a natural phenomena. What we can do is make sure that we can live the healthiest life possible. And to do that, there are some foods that you can incorporate in your daily life, foods that have a lot of fiber. So again, to maintain that gut microbiome, I cannot stress enough how important the gut microbiome is in influencing everything, whether it's related to your physical health or your mental health. So again, eating foods that are high in fiber, you have some foods that have live cultures in it, like yogurt, buttermilk, miso, there's tofu, soy beverages, there's tons out there. And eating lots of what we call, these anti-aging type of foods. Your berries have a lot of those antioxidant properties, all your citrus fruits, so foods that are high in vitamin C, which are your citrus fruits, high in vitamin E, your green leafy vegetables. So anything your grandmother told you to eat, I would say go back to that. But again, the bottom line is eating real food and being stress-free. I think those are the two sort of secrets to aging gracefully.
Thank you so much. Hold on to your mic. I'm coming up there.
Okay.
Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for an eye-opening new perspective on our relationship with the healing properties of food, and for separating myth from fact especially, and for the website. I think that's so helpful, and particularly helping us not put our money where our mouth is. I think that's a big help. And to abc13.com, and ABC13 in general, for giving us this valuable platform to inform and inspire our community to lead healthier lives through events such as these. And I would also like to extend our gratitude to UT physicians, our partners in health from McGovern Medical School, who teach, train, treat, and provide the highest quality care for ourselves and our family. Please, all of you, feel free to take advantage of the wonderful screenings that we have available for our live audience. It is an honor to partner with an organization that really walks the walk and talks the talk when it comes to health and safety. Mercedes-Benz is well known for its safety through its engineering in its cars, and now it partners with us in being able to impart the same kind of health and safety to the Houston community. So we really thank you. Our next UTHealth House Call will be September 12th at 6:30 p.m. on abc13.com, and the topic will be on stem cells, particularly their use for the treatment of stroke and other serious health events. So to view tonight's program, though, please visit abc13.com and go to the Health Check section. And we will be, this entire episode will be running, and we will have other questions answered for you over the few days. So thank you so much. Hope to see you again. It was a pleasure.